Alright, here we go. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Hope you're having a good day. 14 more animated Llama Arts compilation 2016. One of y'all requested it. We did part 1. More of y'all said, like, keep it pushing. So here's part 2. I don't know how many parts this is going to be. Like, last time, what? It looks like 13 minutes. If this one's 13, that'd be 26. So it'd be like 4 parts probably to this. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how far we get today. But yeah, this is part 2. Hope you're having a good day.
I'll never
Probably do
forget
like
the
2
time me
stories.
and my brother snuck out past our bedtimes to explore an allegedly
2 maybe.
haunted house down the block. Yes, I said bedtime, as I was only 10 and my brother Luke was only 12. When our parents said goodnight to us, I
Not
went
one
to
of them
Luke's
Rubik's
room
Cubes
and
is
we took
solved.
a couple hand-powered flashlights with us and hopped outside through the window. Luckily, his room was on the first floor. Those hand-powered flashlights worked by constantly pushing in a little trigger that would create light inside the lens. They were noisy as hell, but they were convenient. Once we were outside, we just walked down the block, and in 2 minutes we were there. It was rumored by all the neighborhood kids and teens that the place was haunted. Everything about it was creepy. The older, more antique design of the house, the isolation from the rest of the houses, and the broken windows and rotting wood. It seemed perfect for a horror movie. We went around to the backyard. This was all my curious and confident brother's idea. I was scared shitless. The door was locked, as expected.
I would have never
felt
done
bit
this
of
as a
relief
kid.
thinking
Like,
we might
ever.
just go home. But my brother made a shocking move next. He grabbed a plank of wood laying in the grass and began smashing the already chipped window. Eventually there was enough of an opening to unlock it and slide it up completely.
What the
We
fuck?
hopped inside and began cranking those
Breaking and
noisy-ass
entering a
flashlights.
broken it. Like, you can't even, like, take. I mean, don't steal. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's literally committing a crime for no fucking reason.
Immediately after entering the house, we both picked up on the fact that it was like 90 degrees in there, which was odd as it was a September night in the mid-70s. There was no graffiti or anything anywhere. In fact, it was relatively empty besides a few pieces of furniture that
Can
were
we
clearly
not do
not
this?
worth taking along. It seemed we were the first to enter the house, shockingly, or at least from the back. We went upstairs to the main floor from the little den area and continued cranking the flashlights. That's when we heard the slightest crack in the floorboards from right above us. We both jumped. I tugged for Luke to leave, but he told me the place is old as hell. It's just house noises. I stopped cranking the flashlight at this point, and I urged Luke to do the same, but he only called me stupid for suggesting something so ridiculous. Then there was another crack in the floor.
Whose idea was it to come here? Like, that was
He began walking upstairs. I
stupid.
didn't want to go up there, but I was not about to stay down there alone. I followed behind him to the upstairs. There was a door that led to a room right above where we were standing. I begged him not to open it, but he must have just wanted to be the big, tough older brother. He began to reach for the doorknob while still cranking the noisy flashlight, but then he stopped. I was confused. I could see in the dark he was moving his ear up against the door, listening for something. Silence. Then, the most deafening, nightmare-inducing moment of my life. A single bang on the door from the other side sent my brother staggering into the wall in pain, covering his ear. We dropped the flashlights and ran straight out the back door and back home. We were so loud when we got back that our parents found us out. We told them what happened, but they naturally didn't care and grounded us both for a week. 2 nights later, I woke to the sound of something from outside my window and a glare of brightness sneaking in through my slightly opened blind.
Oh, shit.
I sat up, and my heart sank when I realized it was the sound of the crank to my flashlight. I stood up and looked out the window, and that's when it stopped. There was nothing but complete blackness out there after that. I woke the next day barely remembering what happened, and I still hope today that that part was just a dream.
I don't know know why. I would never have done that shit. Like, that's... like, I don't know. I guess it was just, like, a creepy old house, right? Like, there was no... If anybody says something's haunted, like, I'm really not fucking with it. Like, a Ouija board, that's not me. That's... Like, no, that's just... You know what I mean? Like, even if it's not true, I'm not trying to find out. Like, I'm not trying to Scooby-Doo no shit. Like, you know what I mean? No.
This story
Just
took
fuck
place
that.
a long time ago, back in 2002, when Craigslist was in its early years. Many wouldn't know, but back in those days,
Okay.
Craigslist was a lot different. It was a lot more so an online garage sale, or just a place where people would list old things that still had some value that they were willing to give away. I got a basketball
That shit a
hoop, a
PlayStation?
hockey net, and a spoiler for my car, all free in perfect condition in that same year. You'd be lucky if you found something like that these days. Anyway, me and my son were dying to buy a hockey net so we
I
could
think I
practice
remembered
in the
it.
cul-de-sac
I've watched
we
this one
lived
before.
in. For the record, this was before I got that free one I mentioned. Wouldn't you know it, on Craigslist there was an ad for a slightly used regulation-size hockey goal for only $50. It came with a puck and 2 slightly used hockey sticks. I still have a picture of that ad to this day. It seemed like the perfect deal, but he lived about 2 hours away. I called the number he had listed, and he sounded pretty normal on the phone. He had a pretty deep, dark voice, but nothing that would be off-putting. I remember his voice being a bit emotionless. He agreed to meet halfway due to the distance, said he'd put the stuff in the back of his pickup truck. He said he could only come after he got off from work though, which was much later in the day, way past dark. We agreed to meet at some rest stop off the highway. Me and my son, who was 11 at the time, took my wife's minivan, the only car that would be able to fit that huge thing. Within an hour, we were at the truck stop, which was empty at this hour, but was decently lit by 3 big light posts. I parked right under one of the lights and waited. A pickup truck pulled in off the highway right on time. He stopped right in front of me. I went over to his window, but then noticed there was nothing in the back of his truck. "You Steve?" he asked me. "Yep, that's me," I said. "Alright, my buddy's bringing in the stuff with his truck." The guy pulled up behind my car and put it in park. I suddenly had a bad feeling. I told my son to get back in the car and lock every door except mine. 2 more pairs of headlights came off the highway into the lots, surely enough pulling up next to me. And, not surprisingly at this point, there was no hockey equipment in either one of them. My heart was racing. I was worried. Not for me, but for my young son who I for some reason brought with me
Yeah,
on
I
this
don't know
trip.
why he brought him. Like,
A
high
group
key.
of large men mixed with heavy-set and muscular physiques stepped out of the 2 pickup trucks behind the first one. They eyed me from head to toe, giving that typical intimidation stare down. Then this bald guy wearing sunglasses said in a deep voice, "Where's the money?" I instantly pulled out my wallet and
50
handed
bucks?
it to him, begging him to just let me and my son go. He pulled out like $100 and was pissed, expecting more. He then sent 2 of his goons or whatever to get my son. At this point, I screamed and begged for him not to take him. One of the men broke the glass to the minivan back door, and I vividly remember the disturbing, heartbreaking screams of my young son. What happened next was what I can only explain to be a miracle from God answering my prayers. A car was entering the lot from off the highway. All the men stopped and turned to look at it.
It was a
As it
cop.
got closer, my heart literally dropped in excitement as I saw it was a police car. The lights suddenly began to flash as he got close enough to see what was going on. All of the men were back in their trucks within seconds, speeding off down the highway. Well, at least 2 of them. The truck in the back was caught immediately by the police car, and backup arrived shortly. I explained everything to them, and they got the men that were caught to rat out on the others surprisingly quickly. I guess luckily the guys in the back truck weren't very loyal to whoever their leader was, if they even had any type of leader.
Motherfucker
Believe
said
it or
quick as
not,
shit.
I had a police
Could be a
escort
deal.
all the way home to make me and my son feel safer. I don't want to get into all the legal stuff, but I'll just say that all of those men except for one was caught, and I'm pretty sure that was the driver of the first pickup truck. Needless to say, my Craigslist days weren't over at that point,
What?
but I've always been much more protective of my son and much more cautious of Craigslist meetings.
I don't know
since
why
then.
he would like take your kid on it. That was the first thing I was gonna say, but I was like, I don't want to cut into the story like that because I do that shit a lot in every other video. So I'm gonna try and hold back on that. But like, who the fuck? Like, yeah, I'm gonna take my kid. Like, how's the kid gonna help it? Like, that's I don't know.
It's
Fucking slow.
reactive.
Damn, how long is this What the fuck is the missing light? Oh Jesus Christ, that shit was loud, low key.
There was once an isolated island off the coast of Scotland where 3 lighthouse keepers lived and were responsible for keeping the building intact.
I think we'll do
day,
one more
when their
story.
monthly supply ship dropped in,
We'll be
the
straight.
island was silent. No response from the lighthouse keepers. Eventually, the captain and some crew members went to investigate and found a disturbingly empty lighthouse. 2 of the 3 waterproof coats were missing from their hangars, and the kitchen was left in a state as if people had left in a hurry. Coats were missing. A disturbingly empty lighthouse. 2 of the 3 waterproof coats were missing from their hangars, and the kitchen was left.
I think you said 3 of the 4 or something. I was like, why is there only one?
In a state as if people had left in a hurry. The lighthouse log only added more mystery to the situation. The log described how one of the keepers wouldn't talk, and the other continuously cried for hours. All this pain and fear seemed to be coming from what was referred to as a powerful storm looming in the distance. However, this begs the question, why were they so scared of a simple storm? They should have been safe in the brand new lighthouse, right? The log goes on to talk about how they all sat close together and prayed for the storm to be over. The final log states, "The storm has passed, the skies are calm, and God is over all." Their bodies were never found, and the cause of their death is still a mystery to this day. The most accepted theory is that they somehow got swept out to sea during the storm, never to be seen again. But one final detail remains, one that scared the captain and his crew to the bone. The powerful storm described in the log didn't exist. There were no storms reported in the area. In fact, the skies were calm all day.
Okay, what?
It was 2 years ago.
Alright, for
I
sure.
was called in to do the night shift, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. at 7-Eleven.
Thought there'd be more.
Since somebody called out. The store was located on a busy road in a rather quiet and rural area. During the night shift, you could expect anywhere from 10 to 20 people come in to buy a beer or something else. This one particular night, there was this one guy, mid-20s, that came in. He started making weird noises, like loud yelling noises. I assumed he had some kind of mental disability. In fact, my brother has a mental disability, so I immediately felt sympathy for the guy. He walked up to the counter without any items, with his head facing me, but his eyes were looking up at the ceiling. I felt uncomfortable. I honestly didn't know how to deal with it. I tried speaking with him, but he only responded in loud noises. I kept checking if he was with someone outside, but he was alone. There weren't any cars in the parking lot, so I assumed he walked.
What?
He stood there for so long, looking up at the ceiling and making noises, that I tried to get him out by handing him a bag of chips and telling him he can go. I tried finding some kind of number to call for someone to help him. Then, out of nowhere, he finally turned around and walked out of the store. I felt so horrible for the man, but at the same time,
I'd be like, yo.
I felt a bit creeped out. About an hour later, the phone on the counter rang. I picked up to hear the familiar yelling sounds of the man from earlier. He caught me off guard. I didn't know what to think, other than this has to be some kind of prank. I hung up on them and was now becoming paranoid of my surroundings, constantly checking the outside through the windows. Come 4 o'clock, the person working after me came in, finally allowing for me to go home. It wasn't my problem anymore. I got home and threw all my stuff on the table, ready to get to sleep. But my phone rang within a minute after entering the door. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why would someone be calling at 4 a.m.? I could only imagine it was bad news. I braced myself and picked up the phone to hear the man again. I felt sick to my stomach as I listened to the loud noises he made. I struggled to slam the phone to the receiver. All night, I felt like I was being watched, even with all the blinds shut. And I could swear I heard strange noises coming from all over my house. I refused to get any sleep until the sun came up. Weeks passed and I had forgotten about the incident, until one day, when going into the basement for the first time in a while, I found that papers had been scattered all over the floor, and when I went into the basement closet, I found writing on the walls. 7-Eleven had been written in Sharpie on the wall, along with the address to the 7-Eleven I worked at and my house address. The most disturbing part, I also found various kitchen knives, along with a large pocket knife sitting in the closet, which started out as seemingly just an innocent person turning into something of a prank, ultimately turned into something much more horrifying. He had been living down there for God knows how long, and I'm just grateful that, for whatever reason, he changed his mind and left, because I haven't seen or heard from him since. All I can say is that man is dangerously ill.
What the fuck? Like, how do you not notice somebody like being in your... Oh, no, I've seen this one. I don't want to deal with that shit right now. Nah, let's... You know what? Nah, that's just seeing that title fucked up my whole train of thought. 13, 20... If this is a 15-minute video, nah, we're straight. We're not... Y'all want a part 3? I'll do it. I just don't want to watch that one. That's animation, the story, I just... You know what I'm saying? Not right now. Not today. Fuck that. Nope.